Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Script Department. We're going to be talking about the Obi-Wan Kenobi trailer. I'm here with Brad. Brad, we did our talk about Obi-Wan about a week ago or so, and didn't realize the trailer would come out so quickly. And what a trailer it is.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Because all the hair on the back of my neck and everything, it was exciting.
Yeah, Duel of the Fates music, really leaning into Revenge of the Sith here. This also ties in with an Entertainment Weekly article that's come out as well at the same time. And there's been a lot of kind of photographs and stuff like that. There's set photos and things. And there is an image of Vader as well in one of standing over his meditation chamber. Very nicely kind of concealed, just the helmet. You can see the silhouette of the helmet, not much detail in the face itself, and then a few lights on his suit. Very cool. I don't want to spend kind of too much on this because I think we could go on forever, and we have talked a lot about what we want to see from it. I don't know if this gives us any more than what we already thought we were going to get. We knew this was going to be Inquisitors hunting down Jedi. We knew this was going to be Obi-Wan keeping watch over Luke and then moving on to other things for a while, and that's kind of just what's presented to us in the trailer. But I do think there's some nice little moments in there that do raise some questions as to where this show or where these characters may go and what kind of characters we might be getting. I think the first line, I'm not sure if it's exactly the first line, but it's when Obi-Wan says, "We lost."
Yeah, the war is done.
We lost. Yeah, the war is done. We lost. I thought that just beautifully sets the tone, I think, for what this show seems to be, which is this is probably going to be Star Wars at its most bleak, it seems.
Yeah, it's a really, really dark time for the galaxy. I mean, if you look at like some of the shots in it, it's like it looks like it's going to be a grind for anyone that has anything to do with the rebellion or the Republic or anything like that. It's not going to be easy time for those guys.
Inquisitors is a word that's been thrown around in Star Wars for a long time, but if you ever actually look at the word, if you ever actually look at the history of Inquisitors in Europe and so on, in history, I think this is going, it's been toned down a little bit, that the kind of the kind of the underpinning horror that kind of goes with what history has shown us in the cartoons and so on and so forth. But I think they're going to be leaning full into this. We even see, bodies being strung up and things like that. So it does feel like we're going very, very dark here in this show.
Yeah, it's definitely going to visit all those like grotesqueries of human nature that we're all aware of and sometimes ignore. But when they're put in front of us, we feel that because we know, the things that people have done, and parts of history have been sort of like almost cartoonized, like the witch hunts, for like you mentioned, like that was a horrific time of like slaughter, like complete madness, really. But it's taught, it's it's a Halloweeny kind of thing now, and it's the green ladies with the long nose and the pointy hat kind of thing, and it's been cartoonized. So when you strip that off, whether you put it in a story with a wrapper like Star Wars, when you strip off the cartoon childlike view of it, it can be really harrowing thing to watch.
Yeah, and it does seem like, we see the Grand Inquisitor, he kind of narrates most of the trailer, seems obsessed with Kenobi, and I want to touch on that in a bit. But, that's Rupert Friend. I never even realized that was, total transformation, never recognized him at all.
I didn't, I was like, what's that guy? Who's that guy? Until you told me.
Is it possible he'll be the creepier than Ian McDiarmid, as the Emperor? It's just he looks absolutely incredible in it. Yeah. And I think they're really leaning into the the grotesqueness, as you said, of the Empire.
Mm.
This is going to be the darkest chapter of humanity, for lack of a better word, in this universe. I think I have a feeling that that's where it could go.
Well, we've seen them squash the army that was fighting against them. We've seen them destroy the Jedi Order, and underhandedly won a huge intergalactic war. And now this is them going to be squashing the people. So this is them going to be oppressing the populace that always comes after a military invasion. So it's going to be, like you say, it's going to be really dark. And I think they're sort of what we can see in the trailer. They're touching on the really dark parts of Obi-Wan's experience as well.
There's a very striking image. There's a very striking image of a group of people early on in the trailer being brought in shackles, and it's 2 by 2, and it's there's a lot of imagery there. There's a lot of powerful imagery there that you can't ignore, and I think, I think I'm hoping. I think what I'm getting at here is I hope that this isn't a toned down. This isn't Alec Guinness kind old man offering some wisdom and having rolling his eyes at Han Solo. This is there's a proper struggle for survival here going on, it seems, and I really hope they people have been talking about now that they've acquired Daredevil, and some people are shocked that there's going to be some not so Disney stuff appearing on Disney Plus now under the Marvel banner and so on. I mean, there's loads of stuff on the Star banner and Disney Plus that is not for kids. I mean, so I don't know why people are shocked by this, but
I think some people still don't understand Disney Plus has all of what it does. I mean, some people are still like, "What, the thing with all the old Disney films?" And I'm like, "What? Just watch, have a look at it. Like, what are you doing? Like, check it out. Like, there's some amazing stuff on there. It isn't just like Pinocchio and Fantasia like on repeat. Like, check it out. Like, there's some big stuff on there, and they've got Star now as well with all of the stuff from the States.
Incredible stuff. Right?
I mean, it's so good.
I think if they are bringing in a more, let's say, more mature, adult oriented Marvel stuff, Disney stuff, like stuff that you don't associate Marvel with being adult oriented primarily, but the stuff that they did with Netflix was, and I hope that this is their first foray into more adult-oriented Star Wars. I don't want kids to be able to watch this movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, I want this to be this is a really hard-hitting thing where you're going to be quite, like, this is what the Game of Thrones guys should have been doing when they were first approached to do a Star Wars thing. Show us the Empire in its darkest, at its absolute darkest, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they've touched on the darker, more adult stories in a few parts of it, like Rogue One, quite dark. Spoilers: everyone dies, which is very new. We had a long chat about that on one of the podcasts. They in the Mandalorian and Boba Fett, there's like beheadings, deaths, characters that you know and love dying, and they've gone there, and this looks like they're going to go over the top. They're going to go, okay, this is, you've got to be, it's going to be rated. I know it's a TV show, but they can still come out with ratings as advisory. I think they're probably going to go PG-13, but it's going to be a hard watch. It's not. It's going to be like on the borderline of being a 15. Does that still exist? The 15? I think it does, doesn't it? The 15.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't really look anymore. But it's I think it's going to be on that boundary, and it's going to be dark, like we say. I mean, all the stuff in it as well is in the trailer: the Duel of Fates, the double-ended lightsaber, the sand, watching Luke from afar. These are all really hard parts of his story, and it's those spread over a number of films. Those things that we're seeing, and it's his story. His name's on the show's named after him, so we're going to see the struggles that he's gone through, and we're going to revisit the struggles that he's gone through as well.
So you mentioned two things, and I want to get to these, right? You mentioned Luke, and you mentioned how it's his story. First of all, when you hear Obi-Wan say, stay hidden, is he having a conversation with Luke in that? Is it like, is this the last thing do you think he's going to say to Luke before he goes away? Meaning, like, there'll be some encounter with Luke. Luke might get in trouble. Maybe they know Luke exists, or somebody's got wind of Luke's abilities or something. And he's like, look, things are getting hot. Things are dangerous. You need to stay hidden. Don't make noise. Don't, I'm not saying literally stay underground or anything, but like, don't cause trouble. Don't
So
draw attention to
I'm
yourself.
not so
Stay hidden.
sure.
I'll be back. I promise.
So I think when I say it's his story, I mean it's Obi-Wan's story, and he's watching Luke from afar. And what I know they don't always portray what's happening correctly in a trailer. They sometimes they try and tell a different story, but he's watching him from afar, and when he says that line, he speaks quite. It's a very wistful sort of delivery. I imagine that he was saying that to himself, or he's sort of like imagining that he's talking to Luke, but he can't.
See,
He can't get
I
there.
heard of that. When I listened to it, I think maybe it's the editor in me, but I picked up on a cut, like as in this was a different line of dialogues from somewhere else. And yeah, there's a part of me that wonders, does he, even if Luke doesn't know who he's talking to, but it's just, let me give you a bit of advice, before he leaves. Like, it does feel like he's not going to go off world. That's the whole thing I think we talked about before, was if he's going off world, like that's a serious, like there got to be some serious thing going on for him to abandon his quest to protect Luke. And for him to go off world, I can't imagine he would, or maybe he's saying it to Owen even, but I can't imagine he would be saying it just to himself, because he would want to make sure things are going to be okay while I'm away. So I just thought that was an interesting kind of line, and I was kind of just trying to figure out the different kind of versions of it.
I think the thing that's going to drive him off world is the fact that the Lars family is being inquisited, if that's the right word. There's the shot of Joel Edgerton in a lineup, and someone is hammering questions at them, and he's looking pretty staunch. He's not giving anything up, but it's kind of like you can see it's spilled in. They're hunting Obi-Wan. Where is he? We want to get him. They're hunting Obi-Wan. That he's like their public enemy number one for the Empire. They want that guy, and they are slaughtering people to try and find him. And they're on the right planet. So
there's two. There was two. I had two readings of that, which was one that he's standing up. He's like, enough of this, and he's kind of like, pushing his way through the crowd to like, don't torture these people anymore. Stop hurting these people. Like, you've already killed one person, which you can see hanging from you can see their feet hanging. Like, I can imagine him coming in and saying, like actually almost challenging the Inquisitor in a kind of heroic moment, in which case that's a side of Owen I never thought I would see. Or you lean into the idea that Uncle Owen might not be the hero. Like, you don't look at Uncle Owen in A New Hope as being a kind of heroic character. You look at him as being like, look, can you just do your job, work the farms, look, go next year. There's always going to be a next year. There'll be an excuse next time as well. He's never going to say, yes, make us proud, son, go on off and do your thing or whatever. It's, and I wonder, he's a guy who plays it safe. I get the feeling. And I think my other reading of that moment is he's like, I'll tell you what you want to know. And it's almost like, is he the reason that Obi-Wan has to leave? Because I never thought of Uncle Owen as being the reason why Obi-Wan has to now leave. Because Obi-Wan would never leave. He'd never leave Luke.
Yeah.
He'd never let anything get close to Luke.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is Owen the guy? And when you watch A New Hope then later, you're like, oh, like, and it could be like, it's all right. I understand why you did what you did. Just promise me you'll stay hidden. It could be something like
they're
that.
They're definitely going to do that retcon thing where they make you see uh, one of the established original trilogy in a different way, like the Rogue One building the inconsistencies in the design of the Death Star. Like that was just a hole that they shot at, but now it's like a redundancy built in by an angry employee effectively. And I think they might there's a very high chance they're going to do that with Owen, because they're not going to get, I doubt they're going to have Joel Edgerton in as a snivelly vanilla safe playing uncle. I don't think that's the best way of using him. But in the comics there are times when Owen has had to physically protect Luke, once from, I think, Black Chrysanthemum, and another time from, I think it was Darth Maul, and Obi-Wan. In both, I mean, they're different, universes. Effectively, they're different canons, but he comes in and saves them. But Owen puts up a fight. So they're leaning on some of the comic stuff a lot at the moment, because there's a load of backstory in there that they can bring out and give to the fans as a bit of service. But I think there's also, you might see that he becomes the stay-at-home safe guy in spite of his want to fight back. He might be quite fighty in this. He might be quite, he might be a strong uncle who does literally fight for Luke. But through the process of this, what we've learned is going to be a limited series, you might learn that Obi-Wan's like, look, you can't be that guy. It draws too much attention. You need to swallow that. You need to sit on that and pretend that you're not this guy. I would love to see the fact that the Owen that we see, I didn't really like Uncle Owen. It's boring.
Yeah,
I was like, just let him go to the thing. Let's start the film. But I think it would be a great conflict within him to learn that in A New Hope he's suppressing like a warrior inside of him. It'd be a great sort of twist in the story.
Yeah, I think I want him to be the guy who he went toe to toe with an Inquisitor and lived to tell the tale. He's the guy who said something to an Inquisitor, and he should have had his head lopped off by a lightsaber, but he didn't. And Luke will never appreciate. Luke will never know. And you almost kind of want like Aunt Veru to just be like, if only you knew what he did for you when you were a kid. If you only knew the lengths that your uncle went to protect you because he loves you. And he's doing it again now. And instead of it just being, oh, but the moisture evaporators need cleaning, it's like, no, I will break those moisture evaporators in order for you to have something to do for the rest of the summer so that you don't go off there. Like, yes. I think I want Uncle Owen to be that guy who will give him his last. He will give everything to protect Luke.
Yeah,
and everybody will give everything to protect Luke, because that's just amazing, isn't it?
Mm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting ways they could take this. I mean, and I'm calling this now. Owen is going to see a burnt up family that have been shot to death, and they're a black charred corpse, and he's going to be like, we don't end up like those guys. Like they're going to foreshadow his death, and Luke's going to be, don't worry about that. That is going to happen. I'm definitely calling that.
Totally. Do you think it's possible that we will get a moment where Uncle Owen and Vader go head to head? Not head to head as in a conflict, but just they see each other, and he has no idea who's behind the mask, but Vader knows who you are.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not so sure, because I think for Vader to be on that planet, I've got my Tatooine top on. For Vader to be on that planet, he's going to find Luke. He can sense. He can sense him. He can't sense Leia, weirdly, but he can sense Luke. I think for him to go and visit Tatooine would be it'll break things a little bit. I don't think it would. I don't think it would be right. I think what we are going to see is Luke as a bit like mini Anakin from Phantom Menace. He's there practicing, evidently practicing pod racing, sitting on his little mud igloo. Like they're going to make him into a better version of the mini Anakin that we saw in Phantom Menace. There were some cool parts. That he did.
I think that's the hot take. Yeah.
I think he's definitely going to be that guy.
He's going to want a pod race.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, please, no pod racing. Like, it's just, no, this is how it all begins.
So, I mean, maybe
um,
that could be quite a big thread in it, that he's so interested in doing the things that his father did, including going off to fight in space. Like, and Owen's constantly trying to keep him away from it. Like, whatever it is, whether it's pod
okay,
racing or.
I'm gonna call it here, right? You mentioned pod racing. I'm gonna call it opening scenes of the story. Uncle Owen has brought Luke to see his first pod race. When they're on the way home, that's when the encounter happens with the Inquisitor, and it's like, ooh, need to get Luke out of here.
Nice.
And then when they're back home, they're worried. They're like, should we call Kenobi? I don't know where he is or whatever. And then and it's Luke is just like reenacting what he saw up on the thing, because he's like, oh, I want to be a pod racer when I'm older.
Okay,
like, I'm calling that. I'm calling that as a structure.
I'm going to take the pod race. Watching the pod race, I'm going to raise you. Okay. Opening scene. He's nicked a speeder, and he's in Beggar's Canyon, and Owen's trying to stop him. Brilliant. And he's just like, he could get, and that could bring in the Inquisitors. But I think him dealing with. I mean, how old do you think Luke is? Like 10 or something?
I think it's 10 years. So I think it's 10 years later.
He's dealing with a kid that's soon to become a teenager, and they're going to get all kinds of ideas about what they should be doing and what they can do. My daughter's 7, so she's not quite there yet, but she's definitely got a few ideas about what she wants to be doing. And he's going to be struggling with that. He's going to be. This isn't a normal situation. Everybody wants to get you, including. He's not going to tell him Lord Vader wants him, but he's going to know that. He's going to be like, please stop. Whatever you're doing, just be invisible. Stop it.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned it's Kenobi's story. I have a theory that this is going to be a dual protagonist story, and that we are going to be looking at it from the perspective of Moses Ingram, the woman who we see, the female Inquisitor that we see running around the place in the trailer. I have a theory that most of the Empire stuff that we see will be from her perspective, reporting to her superiors, reporting to the Grand Inquisitor, reporting to Vader, perhaps, all that kind of stuff. Learning about Kenobi, learning about the reality of Order 66 and all that kind of stuff. This will obviously be a big educational experience for people, I think, assuming they haven't seen the prequels. I don't know. I'm imagining they'll have to put some stuff in there to help set the scene. And that's what. So we're seeing Kenobi, but I have a feeling the real story at its heart here, the surprise story, will be Moses Ingram's story as she moves away from the Empire, as she starts to see the truth about the Empire. Because I have to believe Kenobi is going to have some influence on some key characters in this story, that his truth will have to come out at some point as to what is really happening, because the Empire obviously is painting its own picture of what's been happening over the last 10 years, all these uprisings and so on. I have to believe Kenobi's going to have some positive impact on somebody, and I think it'll be Moses Ingram's character, because the Grand Inquisitor is the one who will be the big bad ultimately. Yes. That Kenobi will have a showdown with. And that it'll be that you're not the first guy with 2 lightsabers that I've dealt with, or the dual lightsaber that I've dealt with.
It'll be dual fates, right?
Yeah, totally. And it'll be, but I wonder, will it be 2 lightsabers to deal, 2 lasers to deal with? Yeah. Will it be Moses Ingram fighting on the other side of him? Like the way it was Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fighting Maul. Will it be Moses Ingram turning against the Grand Inquisitor? It just seems she's a standout character in this trailer, and she's got everything kind of she looks like a badass in it. She looks like somebody I think that people will want to dress up as for Halloween, and that's always the mark of like a great kind of hero character in Star Wars, isn't it? Yes. I mean, if they make Boba Fett the good guy, they make everybody who looks great in a mask or who looks great in a costume always ends up being a good guy eventually, a good person
Yeah.
eventually. Um,
Yeah,
and
I think it's a good call. I think it's a good call. I think with her, redemption arc, what's the caption at the end of the trailer? Hope survives. So when we were talking about Rogue One previously, it's like, hang on, what is the New Hope? Is it Luke? Is it the gold credit card? Is it Leia? What is it? What's the so this is if we are going to lean on the idea that Luke is the Hope, this is a story about him. It's going to be a story about Obi-Wan fighting a mini war to repel the interest in Tatooine as a whole.
yeah,
Like, there's always going to
yeah.
be an Empire presence there because they now run the galaxy, but he's going to want to suppress the interest in the hunt. And she's going to be a
There's
big
no
part in
There's
it.
no Jedi here because I'm over here now. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and the fact that his hope survives, that's going to be what happens at the end of the series. He's going to have repelled the attack or the hunt or the yeah
He'll have protected Luke. Yeah, Luke will
yeah
survive because of his sacrifices or whatever. I even if Moses Ingram's character doesn't, and they don't have a name for this character yet, it doesn't seem on IMDb. But even if they don't survive the show, I think there'll be a sacrifice that they make in order to protect Luke for the time being. I think there'll be something valuable that will come from it. If Luke is off their list now, or if Luke a person of interest and is no longer a person, it'll be because of what this insider did. I have a feeling. Even
yeah
if
yeah
even if Moses Ingram doesn't turn good, I still feel like that there's a possibility that the title doesn't just refer to Kenobi as a character, but it refers to their target, like the target on their list. It's almost like Kill Bill, it's Kill Kenobi.
yeah
Um, and it's like we are going to be seeing this a dual protagonist story. Moses Ingram's character is an Inquisitor on the hunt for Kenobi, and this is your Empire show. This is your day in the life of an Inquisitor show.
yeah
And we almost had the chance to get that with Finn in the new trilogy, where we got to see, okay, this is what it's like to be a stormtrooper, and it's hard because sometimes you don't want to pull the trigger, but they'll know if you don't pull the trigger and all that kind of stuff. But it's very quickly kind of written off because he just turns his back on the Empire straight away, or the First Order straight away, Whereas that's something that could have been dragged out over the movie, maybe. If you wanted to kind of make it a more meaningful turn later, I don't know.
yeah I think there's lots of stuff they could do with it in relation to where it ends up in relation thinking about A New Hope and how it gets there. I think you've mentioned a number of times with the films or TV shows in between the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, something could have happened to show why Vader's a bit slower when it comes to the battle in A New Hope, and that could also work for Obi-Wan. There's no reason he can't take a few licks from the Grand Inquisitor before he definitely cuts him in half, exactly like Darth Maul, because he's got the double-ended lightsaber.
Yeah.
But there's no reason he can't take a few licks of it, and then we get an image of him walking off across the sands of Tatooine with an Alec Guinness sort of older man sort of walk kind of thing. There's no reason this can't be what sort of he's only 60 in A New Hope, but he's a bit slower than what we've seen. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not that the war hardened general that we've become used to as McGregor playing. So it might help bridge that gap between the two.
Just on the subject of the Grand Inquisitor, the way he says, "Where is he?" It's almost like I get the impression he's quite obsessed with Kenobi. Now, if you're an Inquisitor, the grand prize is going to be the guy who made Darth Vader the way he is. Who's the greatest living Jedi? Well, it's either Yoda or Kenobi, one of these two, or Ahsoka's still out there as well, obviously. But I know there's lots more in the lore of Star Wars out there still. Jedi Fallen Order is based on a Jedi trying to escape the Inquisitors. Same base, by the way, same facility as in Jedi Fallen Order. If you want to find out more about that, go play Fallen Order or Google, watch some playthroughs of it, because that facility underwater and all that kind of stuff does play a big role near the end of that game. So check it out. Okay, the Grand Inquisitor, I wonder, does he have a backstory with Kenobi? And is there more to it than, well, I don't just want Kenobi because he's a Jedi and I'm like a Terminator and I've been programmed to kill Jedi. I wonder, it's like, I want Kenobi because Kenobi did something we hadn't encountered in the past. Is it going to be like Cad Bane and Boba Fett?
Possibly. I think there's definitely going to be some history, and I think the ambition of the Grand Inquisitor is going to be linked to Vader, like, because we've seen this time and time again. The ambition of these sort of like up and comers always ends up getting them killed, but they are hell bent on succeeding in their mission. So Vader is going to be still mourning. Well, he was always mourning Padme, but it's going to be really fresh. And he blames Kenobi for what happened. He really blames him. So he lost his entire family. He lost his limbs. He lost everything, and he'll be blaming that on Kenobi. And that Grand Inquisitor is going to be his. He's going to be his scythe. He's going to be his weapon to try and get him. He's going to want Kenobi, and this Inquisitor is going to be the incarnation of Vader's wrath.
There's one last thing. There's green birds in that trailer. It just, every time I watch it, I'm thinking, what's the significance of the green birds? Because you could have shown me anything. You could have shown me a silhouette of Vader. You could have shown me, you could have given Moses Ingram a line in the trailer, or, if she doesn't have one. You could have, there's a lot you could have put into that. And you chose an aerial shot of green birds flying out of a box or a place or something. And I just thought, is that a callback to a character I've forgotten about? Or
I don't know. I noticed them too. The only big green thing I can think of is Luke Skywalker's saber. And there's the whole thing about, I don't know what the canon is between whether it's the type of kyber crystal they choose or the way it reacts with the Jedi. I think the second one is potentially where they've been going. That it's the color that is, it comes out of the Jedi and it becomes that color as they build their lightsaber. So I'm clutching at straws here. Is it something to do with Luke's inner Jedi? Like, is it a dream sequence? What is it? Like, I've got no idea. Why is there green birds?
Maybe it's a dream sequence. Maybe actually, it is something like a Force vision or something like that, of like, it's like we're foreshadowing some pivotal moment here that's going to happen, and the birds are the clue of that or something. I don't know. It could be nothing. It could just be a stylistic aftermath of an explosion or something.
It's a
like
cool
that.
shot.
It's
a really cool shot.
It just seemed like it was significant in that trailer. Really interesting trailer. Music just puts the hairs on your neck, doesn't it?
It's my favorite.
Incredible. Yeah. Can't wait for it. Anyway, thought we'd do a quick unpack. Final thoughts, Brad?
I'm more excited than I was. I didn't think I'd be able to be, but like you say, the music, the shots of him walking through the sands of Tatooine. We've said in many podcasts leading up to this, we're going to see, the general walking through the desert. We're going to see the Inquisitors hunting them down, and that's before we saw anything on key art or anything. We said there's going to be Inquisitors hunting the Jedi. It's all there because it's the story that we don't know yet. So I think that they are going to be filling in these gaps, and I think it's interesting that a lot of the fans have gone, oh, we're going to see this, and it is exactly what we're going to see. So I think they're telling the story that everyone wants to see, which is a great place for it to be in.